We're waiting for the honor guard to come in, and many other people that were out front. Is the honor guard ready? There are many people coming late, but they'll just keep coming late all afternoon. Please be seated. This is not a strictly Civil Air Patrol service. It's not a strictly Orange County Fire Authority service. It's not strictly a family service. It's all three combined. And much effort has been invested in this service to do Doug the honor that he deserves for the kind of guy he was and what he did with his life and all the different aspects of it. So we're thankful for all who are here, and we're going to have our invocation. Lord God Almighty, we open in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Be strong in our presence today. Amen. Let us rise.
Hope
You may be seated. We'll join in the hymn. The words are on the screen. We're ready for some reflections. Joe, could you come up, please?
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Menton, and I'm a fire captain with the Orange County Fire Authority and friend of Doug Miller. I first met Doug in March of 2000 at our Career Fire Academy 22 orientation. This academy consisted of both lateral and reserve firefighters. And now at first, I and many others mistakenly took Doug to be one of the instructors due to how, young he appeared. You see, Doug started this academy at the spry young age of 59. At first, we didn't know what to expect from Doug, but that would soon change. We all looked to the reserves, and especially Doug, who was always willing to lend a hand, encouragement, and friendship, maybe because he could have been our dad. Doug will always be remembered as a fighter. He was passionate and dedicated and loved being a firefighter. He had an infectious smile, a quiet and strong demeanor, and a caring heart. Throughout his time in the academy and career, Doug gave 100% and was very proficient. He was confident and could always be relied on. No matter what obstacle Doug encountered, he overcame them. And there were plenty. He always kept a positive attitude and a gracious heart. He earned the nickname Stan, meaning, and we will keep it clean, shoot, that ain't nothing. So you see, whenever you tell a story or a tale, Doug always had one that topped it. Due to his years of lifelong experience and having around 25 plus years on most of us. So Doug started in the fire service in July of '91. Doug became a reserve firefighter at Fire Station 23 in the city of Villa Park. The Morongo Valley Fire Department as well, where he held the ranks of firefighter, engineer, and captain. He also worked as an extra help mechanic for the OCFA during that time as well. Doug played football for the practice squad of the Philadelphia Eagles, and some of the players from the fire department football team, the Heat, they caught wind of this and asked Doug to join the reserve so he could play for the team. And during his time at Morongo Valley Fire, and as a reserve at Fire Station 23, he taught multiple fire classes, mentored many young hopeful fire academy candidates, which several of whom have had successfully achieved their dreams of a firefighting career. Due to Doug's talents in the automotive as well as truck driver, he was instrumental in the refurbishing of the Orange County Fire USAR Tractor 54 and many other projects. Doug was always there to lend a hand both on a professional level as well as a friend. With his previous experience and talents, Doug would achieve his dream and become a career firefighter with the Orange County Fire Authority in April of 2000. Doug was assigned to Fire Stations 28 and Station 6. Doug was promoted to engineer on April 16th of 2004, where he continued to work at Fire Station 6 driving the engine, something that Doug both loved and did extremely well. Now, with Doug's vast experience as a truck driver, race car driver, and motorhead enthusiast, many turned to Doug for help with troubleshooting mechanical problems, as well as helping them prepare for their engineer process. Doug also assisted in the training of the fire explorers at Post 6. Doug was always willing to help others, especially the youth. Now, in 2007, Doug had just gotten off a vegetation fire that morning, and later that day, Doug and Jet, they went shopping at the local Costco by Fire Station 6, where myself, engineer Julie Pearson, firefighters Lee Cabrera, and firefighter Brian Yao were having coffee on duty across the parking lot at Pete's Coffee when Doug became ill. Doug collapsed and went into cardiac arrest. Jet and a bystander began CPR. With us being so close, we arrived in a couple minutes and began to treat and transport Doug to the hospital, where he did recover with no heart damage. Doug has always been a fighter. Doug beat the odds and the expectations of his medical teams as well. With that, he was able to return to work where he finished out his career in the automotive section, where he again impacted many lives on both the professional and personal level. His fellow firefighter and friend, Pete Trapani, worked with Doug both at Morongo Valley Fire Department and here at the OCFA. Pete shares this about Doug. I met Doug when he was a paid call firefighter at Fire Station 23 in Villa Park. I was a paid call firefighter at Station 25 in Midway City. Doug and I would train the new paid call firefighters in the academy and link up at various training events. Doug and I both became captains at Morongo Valley Fire Department in the mid-90s. We were assigned 1 day a week. My days were Sundays, and Doug would relieve me on Mondays. I remember looking up to Doug as a leader, not only in the fire service, but as a leader in the way that he lived his life. Doug and I were both trying to get hired full-time as firefighters. I remember talking with Doug in the captain's office when he would relieve me, sometimes for hours. We would talk about what we can do to be better candidates as we tested, as well as various questions on how to be good leaders and officers for my current crew, and how we could be a good leader or man outside the fire service. Doug was older than me, and his life experiences and wisdom had a profound effect on me. From the first time I met Doug, he expected professionalism, leadership, and doing the right thing for the public and crew members. He never wavered on who he was and what it meant to be in a leadership role. Doug and I both got hired full-time with the Orange County Fire Authority, and when we had the chance to work together, we would reminisce about the days we struggled, sacrificed, and kept each other motivated as we tested all over to get hired full-time as firefighters. Now, as luck would have it, we got hired at our dream department, where it all started. I was so happy for Doug, and I knew the department was better for having him here. Doug, more than anything else for me, was such a wise man. His calm demeanor and words and of wisdom is what I will miss. Unfortunately, I wouldn't get to see Doug a lot over the years. I stayed at the same station for many years, but when I would see him, we would catch up right where we left off with some laughs, wisdoms, and memories. Doug was like a father figure for me, and for so many of us who he touched and guided. I will always cherish our talks, our experiences, and the memories. Rest in peace, Doug. You will be missed. Now, fellow mechanic and friend Mark Ruse shares that Doug spent a lot of time at Fire Station 54 in his off-duty hours fixing up the USAR tractor that pulled the USAR cache. It was an old military tractor that was in rough shape when the Fire Authority obtained it. Doug arranged to have it painted red. He spent countless hours installing lights, wheels, tires, a lot of chrome, and new fuel tanks. When it was done, it looked almost new, and it was a sight to see. It is still in service today and plays an active role in serving the citizens of Orange County in the OCFA fleet. Doug always worked hard and followed through on his commitments. All of us were very proud of him, and especially of the accomplishing his dream, and Doug was proof that you can become anything you set your mind to. He will be greatly missed. Rest in peace, Engineer Miller. So Doug's captain, Wendy Norwood, also shared, on the first day that I met Doug, he was going off shift, and I was coming on. We busted a fire during the first day at shift change, and as we were throwing gear on the engine, he jumped up onto my side, stuck his head in the window, and excitingly said, "Hey, Cap, can I go with you?" He was so excited, she says, that I couldn't say no. And it was a good fire, too. Halfway through, when they were starting to rotate us out, and both my regular guys were spent and wanting a break, Doug and I were still both going strong. So Doug and I kept going. We laughed about it afterwards, feeling pretty good about ourselves. The chick, her words, and the old guy, her words again, were the strong ones. He was a good man and worked hard at achieving his dreams. I did not expect that when I heard the rumors of his age. I was very pleasantly surprised by him and valued his strength, dedication, passion, and camaraderie, as well as his humor. It was a sincere pleasure to have him in my life. Now, in closing, I would personally like to share a story that Jet had shared with me about a friend who during COVID was in the hospital and for well over a month, and no one was allowed to visit. Doug reached out every day to his family, making sure that they were okay and doing whatever was needed to help them in this difficult situation. That is Doug Miller. I will always remember Doug for his infectious smile, his soft and quiet demeanor, his professionalism, dedication to Jet, family, and friends, and to the profession. The never give up attitude, and above all, his desire to always give back, to teach and mentor those around him. These are the characteristics of a great man, and that is Doug Miller.
Representing Civil Air Patrol, Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Wiggins.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Jet, for asking me to speak today on behalf of Civil Air Patrol. It's truly a very great honor. We are here today to provide solace and comfort from the entire Civil Air Patrol family to the entire Miller family. We mean that deeply. Jet, Michael, all the members of the Miller family and friends, we feel your loss in very many ways. We are also here today to show our respect for and to say goodbye to one of the Civil Air Patrol's most amazing senior members ever, Major Doug Miller. I thought I would begin by running down all the activities, achievements, projects, trips, and service that Doug performed during all of his years in CAP. So relax, get comfy, we're gonna be here till tomorrow afternoon. No, instead I've chosen to tell the Doug Miller story by talking about just a few examples of what I believe Doug was all about. Let me start by saying that the loss of Doug Miller is quite the blow to those of us who knew him well. There is no other way to say it. Losing Doug is a great loss for his family, a great loss for CAP, and an infinite loss for the hundreds of cadets that will now not receive any of his wonderful gifts. Gifts from Doug, kind of an odd word to use, but it's true. Doug brought gifts to people. Those gifts came in shapes and sizes, from the reality of driving a cadet anywhere he or she needed to go, to arranging flights to the Air Force Academy, to driving cross country. Doug did it all. We benefited from his gift when he raised funds for all of the things, from planes to kitchens, even to buildings. A perfect example of his gift is the one project that he has left in progress. He has raised $500,000 for a new building for CAP to be built at the Los Alamitos Joint Forces Training Center, a building that will still go on and be built, a building that should be dedicated to Doug. I first met Doug about 6 years ago. My daughter had recently transferred into Squadron 56, and like any good dad, I had to know who was running the show wherever my daughter was involved. When my daughter was no longer a cadet, I transferred into Doug's treasured Fullerton Composite Squadron 56. After he learned of my varied CAP history, he decided to make me his advisor to the commander. For those of you that really know him in a CAP mode, I want you to think about that for a second. Imagine, advisor to Captain Doug Miller. I naively thought that Doug was looking for advice to help him out with his squadron command. I look back at it now, and what was I thinking? What was he thinking? As if Doug was ever going to take anyone's advice about anything, anytime, in any way. Many of you may not believe this, but eventually I was able to convince him that maybe, just maybe, there was another way to do a few things, a nicer way, a softer way. In retrospect, I think I made a small dent in the way he worked with some other adults and within the CAP bureaucracy at large. Granted, it was a pretty small dent, but a dent nonetheless. You have to take those small wins with Doug. You don't get them every day. One of the things I noticed about Doug is that he genuinely cared. When I watched him at his squadron, he talked with cadets. He didn't just say, "How's it going?" That was not Doug. He got to know them. He learned their school schedule. He would learn their home life. He was trying to learn who they were. He was actually figuring out what each cadet needed to reach their particular goal in life. In CAP, there are adults who join because something is missing in their lives. There are those that need friendships, and there are those that are the kind that join because they love teenagers, young people, and want to make a contribution to their growth and development. Doug had a life. He had plenty of friends. He did not need those things. Doug was in it for the cadets. Pure and simple, nothing more, not an inch less. He gave us his time, his money. He gave us a piece of his soul to every cadet that he came to know. You know, when you work unpaid for a nonprofit organization, you're making a donation. It's not a financial donation. It's a contribution of a piece of your life. You are taking a part of your life and giving it away, hopefully for a bigger purpose. This is Doug. Doug gave us a big chunk of his life, and we owe it to him to see through to the end the things that Doug has already set in motion. Not everything Doug accomplished is as tangible as the beautiful chuck wagon you saw outside, something he loved dearly. Most of Doug's accomplishments are little bits and pieces inside of all of us. Our experiences we had with him on trips or at meetings or lunch. Could Doug be cantankerous? Let's be honest, a smidge. Was he smooth? You might say no, but actually not true. He was very smooth with young people. He was brilliantly smooth with young people. Was he dedicated? Doug may be the most dedicated person I have ever known. Paula Shope, who's in here today, a good friend of Doug's, summed him up perfectly. He was a hurricane, a one-man hurricane, bent on destroying anything that got in the way of a cadet's forward progress. Doug could even be a tornado if necessary. I used to call him Doug-nado. If he saw a particular need or a want, he would fly in and he would do something about it. Doug was a facilitator, one of the best I have ever met. That's why Doug Miller's chuck wagon is sitting outside here right now. He saw a need and he did something about it. Doug Miller got stuff done. Doug was not finished. He's been called away. So now it is up to us to carry on the service that Doug so nobly demonstrated and lived. He was an example we can all aspire to. Doug cared about cadets like no other senior member I've ever known. I think about the countless hours of driving anywhere and everywhere with cadets, for cadets, to cadets. Nothing was ever too far away, nothing was too difficult, no fence too high, no road too long. Not for Doug. Not if even it remotely benefited just one single cadet. Doug was there. He would just simply do what he thought had to be done. It wasn't big, complicated things. It was straight and simple. Identify a need, make it happen. Just recently, Doug flew to Texas, and he watched a swimming meet. He went there to show his support for a former cadet that he helped enter the Air Force Academy. His record of sending cadets to the service academies is nothing short of legendary in CAP. Anyway, he attends the tournament, and then he flies home. He sleeps, gets up the very next day, and drives a dozen cadets up to San Luis Obispo for a conference. Who does that? Doug does that. Doug did that. Doug could be a cadet's greatest fan, especially to those cadets that didn't have any. He once drove across the country to Texas with his trailer to haul a section of fuselage up to Detroit for the benefit of the Detroit 100 Composite Squadron, which he supported quite strongly. That unit is famous because it's run by several Tuskegee airmen. He was hauling a chunk of airplane, which contributed to that unit's Rise Above exhibit from the Commemorative Air Force, which helps tell the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. It's there right now. I looked. It's on the website. Who does that? Who drives across the country like that for that? Doug does that. Here in California, Doug's deep dedication to every aspect of the CAP cadet program included encampment, cadet programs conference, NCO schools, Bear and Wings Challenge, the Aerospace Education and STEM Academy, and every air show he could find, where he set up a sailplane or he manned a recruiting booth. Most of us are well aware of his vast number of uniform runs, for example, so cadets could wear their uniforms properly while involving their parents at the same time. Involving the parents at the same time, that's a little piece of his genius right there. The list of events and activities that Doug has served is darn near infinite in the time he was in the program. How about Doug driving his chuck wagon 250 miles north, setting it up, cooking for 100+ people for 3 days, then asking for a ride to the train station? And you think for a moment, is he quitting? Has he had it? We're losing him. No, he's headed back to Fullerton so he can load up as many cadets as possible into his van and then drive the same 250 miles north again so he can drop them off at the event, which he does, and then he starts cooking again for a whole week. Then he drives those cadets home. Then he rides the train north again. Then he drives the truck wagon back home. I know this is true. I took him to the train station myself. Wow, Doug. Impressive. He did this same thing more than one time. One of his favorite pastimes, and he talked about it to me a lot, was driving cadets home from big activities and listening to all their different war stories. See, he knew that storytelling encouraged cadets to keep going, and it fostered a teamwork. But he also knew that without him, there'd be no war stories. If you knew Doug, you knew that he argued about stuff just once in a while. If he had a plan in mind and you didn't quite agree, he would talk with you, and talk with you, and talk with you until you agreed with him. Sometimes he would compromise, sometimes he just agreed with you, then smile and just go out and do what he was going to do in the first place. We once had a very serious misunderstanding between us, but it was because we cared about cadets to a very serious degree. He eventually found a way to apologize to me, and I, of course, immediately apologized to him. Could Doug be difficult? Yes. Ornery? Yes. Obstinate and hard-nosed? Just a little. But it was always for the benefit of the cadets or our cadet program. Doug had absolute tunnel vision when it came to cadets. Within the world of CAP, Doug's love of Civil Air Patrol was surpassed by only two things: cadets and Fullerton Composite Squadron 56. Doug had Squadron 56 blood running through his veins. He was the long-term heart and soul of Squadron 56, and it thrived under his leadership. I've never seen stronger loyalty in a CAP senior member. He was recruited several times to move up and serve as group commander because he was so successful at Squadron 56, and he always said no. I once asked him why, and he finally, grudgingly, said, "Why would I want to do that? It would take me away from cadets." Who does that? He did. Doug knew what he was all about. You've all heard the phrase, better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Doug was the human embodiment of that saying. If he ever had a tattoo, that's what it would read. Doug had what I call a life energy, like no one else's I've ever met. We all know logically, numerically, that Doug was an older man. But in our hearts, I know in my heart, Doug wasn't old at all. I never actually even thought about that. I've actually never known someone as chronologically old as Doug, and yet as mentally young and driven as he was. Doug was the doer of all doers. I would not be surprised if Doug had a long-term plan somewhere that none of us ever knew about. I'm thinking Doug had his own secret skunk works going on somewhere that we don't know. And what would he have under development? Maybe it's a sequel to his kitchen, something like Chuck Wagon 2, Revenge of the Cook, or something similar. Whatever it was, I'm certain it would be big, colorful, and bold, just like Doug. I'm sure he would have driven it to Florida or someplace far just for the benefit of some cadet somewhere. Doug would drive wherever cadets needed to go, no matter where, no matter when. We all knew that. He wasn't just driving cadets around. It wasn't just transportation. There was more to it than that. He was actually feeding young people down the road of their own potential. He was always about, what does this cadet want to be when they grow up? How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? Deep down, that's what Doug really cared about. Doug Miller was simply one of the best human beings I've had the pleasure to know. His heart was always in the right place, even if his mouth wasn't. We must accept that Doug is now playing at a whole nother level, and God help him, or he had better get out of the way. I know that we all feel that Doug has left us prematurely. I know I certainly do. God took Doug way too soon. We all feel that way. So, Doug, I say to you as your former advisor to the commander, a piece of advice. I'm just still trying, folks. I'm about 80% sure you won't take this last piece of advice, but here it is anyway. Doug, for the rest of us, I'm asking you to really think about this one for a minute. Major Miller, sir, please give God a chance to get situated. Go slow, one step at a time. I'm pretty sure he's not going to listen. So, Doug, once again, give God a break. To God, I say you took Doug when you thought the time was right. I have to say I don't know about this one. You and I are going to have to disagree for a while. To Doug, I say, enjoy your new life, sir, and please, for the rest of us, take it easy on God. He really doesn't know what he's gotten himself into. Doug Miller leaves behind many things. He leaves behind his brilliant, shining example. He leaves behind people that he cared very much about, even if they didn't always know it. And most of all, he leaves behind the Doug Miller Alumni Association, an amazing group of young people and formerly young people that are now on a course that he helped them figure out and achieve. Doug has an awful lot to be proud of, and so do you, Jet. This is what Doug has left behind for us. I'd now like to call Colonel Chris Lee, Pacific Region Vice Commander, and Colonel Ross Vita, Commander of California Wing Civil Air Patrol, to come forward for a presentation. Jed, if you could come forward too, please. And if I could ask everybody to please stand for just a moment. As a small token of appreciation from a very thankful Civil Air Patrol and from all the cadets that your husband has ever coached, mentored, taught, supported, and driven, Jet, please accept Civil Air Patrol's Exceptional Service Award on behalf of your husband, Major Douglas William Miller, for his many years of extraordinary service, bringing great credit to himself, his squadron, and his Civil Air Patrol. Thank you for your service, Doug Miller. Doug, we are proud of you, sir, and on behalf of Civil Air Patrol, I say now, goodbye, old friend, and safe travels.
Please be seated. Jet picked 3 cadets. There could have been a lot more. And so Robert Smith, you're here somewhere. I saw you. There he is. Daniel Hayase and Mitch Ryder, let's all 3 of you come up here and be together and each take your turn speaking.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Smith. I'm a former CAP cadet of Squadron 56, and I was under Major Miller's command. While I was there, he taught me many things, and he impacted my life in such a way that, honestly, I cannot explain to anyone. Best word to say is insane. He was like a father to me. He was like a grandfather to me. I didn't have either one of those in my life growing up as a kid. So for him to come in out of nowhere and be the one to just take that role unexpectedly, that was something that stuck with me. You know, that's something that was very big. And even after being out of Civil Air Patrol, I still kept in contact. We used to joke around saying he was my albino grandfather and that I was his his Will Cook's grandson, you know. That was just our little thing, you know, but the impact that he had on me as far as my life, the things that I do now, the way that I carry myself, it's the biggest thing that I have come to cherish. It's nothing that anyone else, I don't think, could even come close to doing for me. Yeah, that's good.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute honor to be standing here in front of you today, speaking about Major Miller and the incredible impact he's made on my life, but just not for me, but for every cadet he's had impact on. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dan Hayase. I've had the privilege of knowing Major Miller for 8 years, 5 of which during my time as a Silver Patrol cadet, and then 3 of which after I left and went to attend the Air Force Academy. My experiences, interactions with Major Miller are just a small glimpse into the influence that he's had on all his cadets, you know, past, present, and his future cadets. And so the lessons I learned will stay with me for the rest of my life. And so today I hope to illustrate some of these lessons I've had with a few stories and memories I've had and how those shaped who I am as a person. I first met Major Miller when I was 14, just beginning high school and eager to get started with Silver Patrol and to explore the program. Captain Miller at the time greeted me with a warm smile, and I was immediately drawn by his friendly demeanor, his calm, charismatic self, and the way he brought himself to all his cadets, and his silly, corny jokes that always made me smile every time I heard them. Over the course of the 3-hour meeting, we spent well over an hour talking to my mother and I, just getting to know us as people. And over the next few years, I would see this behavior countless times, and became one of the things I admired most about him. He had the ability to make everyone feel welcome and valued, regardless of their background or their experiences. He didn't care if you were a 1-star general or if you were a brand new cadet recruit. He just wanted to get to know you as a person. And everywhere I went in Silver Patrol, I met cadets who talked to me about their interactions with him, how he's been a mentor in their lives, and how they aspire to become like him. He taught me the value of a people-first leadership and the importance of building those strong and lasting relationships with those around you. And that's something I hope to carry with me for the rest of my time as I prepare to be a leader. Major Miller lived vicariously through the lives of his cadets. Our dreams became his dreams, our accomplishments became his accomplishments, and he always had goals of looking at his cadets and seeing what he wanted to do and how he could best help them. One of the ways he supported us was by learning of our dreams and how he could make them into reality. For those who wanted to pursue careers in aviation, he found scholarships so that they could achieve their private pilot's licenses and continue flying and get more experience to go into the world of aviation. For those who wanted to attend the Air Force Academy, he organized and funded private trips to have them get real exposure into what is it like to be a cadet in the Air Force and see if it's really something they want to achieve. When our Cyber Patriot competition team showed promise in our first season, he found funding to upgrade our equipment, and he showed up to almost every practice, just watching. If for those of you who know Major Miller, he was not the most technically savvy person, and he told us all the time about how he wished he could do some of the stuff that we were doing. But his encouragement and being with us, just encouraging us when we were struggling and celebrating our accomplishments when we succeeded was a highlight for me, and seeing his face made those practices worth it. His endless support really meant the world to us, and as much as we fought to keep our dreams alive, so did he. And his gift of motivating and uplifting people to perform their best taught us about the importance of perseverance and the power of hope in good times and bad. Finally, attending the Air Force Academy has always been a dream of mine for as long as I can remember. Years of hard work, blood, sweat, and tears went into my application, and when I finally submitted my package, the nervous wait began. And as I waited to hear back, Major Miller waited patiently with me, asking me for updates every time I saw him, sometimes 3 or 4 times a week. And he was just as excited as I was to hear back. Finally, after months of waiting, I heard from admissions, and it wasn't the news that I wanted to hear. I was devastated. I felt like I let him and other people who helped me along the way down. And I dreaded the thought of having to tell him the news and see his look of disappointment. But when I finally shared the news, I remember he just looked at me and he told me, "Daniel, when you get in next year, I'll be the first to congratulate you." Major Miller's faith never wavered in me. Even when I was disappointed, discouraged, and doubtful of my chances of earning employment, he still believed in me, and his constant encouragement and his useful optimism was a beacon for me as I continued to pursue my dreams. And then next year, when I finally earned my appointment and called him with the news, he simply told me, "Daniel, I never doubted." I'll always remember his faith in me and strive to live up to his example. Sorry. There's so much more I can share more about Major Miller and the impact he's made, not again to me, but to all the cadets in the room. When I look around and I reflect on his life of service, I'm reminded by a quote by Rashid Ogunolairo, who writes, "Legacy is not what's left tomorrow when you're gone. It's what you give, create, impact, and contribute today while you're here, and then it happens to live on." I look around this room and take comfort in knowing the countless lives that he's helped and touched. Major Miller's life is a true testament and the impact that one person can have on the world, and an example of who we can strive to become. I'm truly grateful for the time I've had with him, the memories we shared, the lessons learned, and all the things that he's taught me over the years. And I strive to become more like him every day. Thank you.
I'd like to start with some memories that I have of Doug Miller. I remember him first showing up to Squadron 56 with his grandson, Michael. I remember him signing up as a senior member and faithfully working away at the small tasks that he was given at the time. And then I remember him becoming the squadron commander and having this grand vision of what the squadron could become. And as people have been saying all before me, he was a doer. He was able to make things happen that I remember not thinking were very possible. I remember him telling me once that he would do 50 push-ups on a regular basis before bed. That's not something that I could do right now. And he was doing it at the ripe old age of late 60s, early 70s. I remember him telling me that he was the oldest rookie firefighter in Orange County. And I remember being really impressed by that for some reason, that somebody could sign up for that and take it on and really just prove that age isn't a thing to him. I also remember the metaphor that he told me about leadership. He made me a cadet squadron commander when I didn't think that I was equipped or capable of the position. And one of the things that he would tell me is to lead like a duck. So when you look at a duck as they're paddling over the pond, at the surface, they're just smoothly moving across the water, but underneath, their webbed feet are quickly working away. And what he was trying to tell me is that it's all about thinking about the next move and preparing for the next move while presenting yourself as calm and collected. And that was something that he always embodied. He was always aggressively working and moving towards the next thing behind the scenes, but on the outside, he just looked calm, cool, and collected. And I've had some people mention that about me, that when there's moments that are stressful, that I'm cool, calm, and collected. And it's a piece of him that I believe he gave to me. So my last and strongest memory of him is how he made me feel. He made me feel like I could reach further because he believed in me. As a teenager with pretty low self-esteem, he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I remember watching friends with higher grades, better sports, better extracurricular activities, what have you. They were applying to the Air Force Academy and they were not getting in. So that kind of decided my fate. If people who are better than me aren't getting in, then why should I even try? He encouraged me to try. When I ignored his advice and enlisted, I remember coming back a couple years later and he reminded me of that goal. So I applied. And I had the honor of inviting him to the graduation of 2022, where he got to watch me toss my hat on the field. The best thing that I could give him was the satisfaction of letting him know that I made it. Since he had that effect on me, I could only imagine the effect that he had on all of you. I only ever saw him on Tuesday nights and the occasional weekend event, but there's so many of you here who lived your life with him. I hope you remember that. I hope you appreciate that. For some reason that's still beyond me, he chose to dedicate his time, his effort, his wisdom to a bunch of teenagers in a hangar at some Orange County municipal airport. And I'm grateful to God for Doug's effort. Thank you.
I have so many thoughts welling up in my mind, as I hope you do too. Just what one person can accomplish if they apply themselves, get a vision, go for it. I had a whole bunch of reflections for myself, but I'll hang on to those for later. I think it's time for the video show. You know, a service like this can be very emotional, and the slides tend to be the most triggering one. Oh, we got one more, that's right. I've almost cut the family member out. Come on up. Yeah, this is a short one, okay. Come on up, please. Billy, come on up. I had to make a disclaimer at the service I did at 10 this morning. I said, I forgot something there too, and I said, I almost killed myself a few months ago, so what do you expect? I have brain damage. You gonna come up here? I am. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Jet has given me the great honor standing up here before you all in an attempt to describe Doug and who he was as a person. I know that these words will never be enough to describe the man he was. Please bear with me as I share a few core memories of my own that I have of my brother-in-law who I loved deeply. Doug and I first met in 1985, and it was embarrassing to say the least. So much so that he never let me live it down. When we met, I was bent over, throwing up all over South Coast Plaza Mall parking lot. I had drank too much alcohol at a work party, and him and his niece picked me up to take me home. At the time, he thought that I was a small person and estimated that I was about 3 feet tall because I was bent over in a ball on the parking lot cement there. We later connected, and he was shocked to find out that I was actually 5'6". Needless to say, I never heard the end of me being a compact little person when I had too much to drink. This is the part where you can all blame me, okay? On my 21st birthday, I had a small gathering in which Doug and Jet were in attendance, but they'd never met before. I kind of devised a little plan to, you know. I had hoped that a small spark would ignite, and indeed it did. Little did I know that spark would engulf into a lifetime of love, joy, and happiness for the next 37 years. Doug and I had a long history of pranking each other. One time when I was visiting, I put a gay rainbow sticker on the back of his car window, which went unnoticed by him for about 2 weeks. Doug called me and he said, "Billy, I couldn't figure out why so many male passerbys were honking and smiling and waving at me while he was driving to work." It finally came to light when the firefighters at the fire station called a special meeting in support of him and asked, "Is there something you need to tell us?" He never let me live that one down either. But as many of you know, my wife Gina and I were in law enforcement for 20 years. Several of our visits always ended with Orange County Fire Station stickers stuck on the back of our vehicles, which of course were not located until much later. Got me out of tickets though. Every time we visited, Doug would tell the same joke. I'm sure none of you have heard this one. What do firefighters and cops have in common? They all want to be firefighters. If I could have him tell me that stupid joke, one of his infamous cop-eating donut jokes, just one more time, I'd take it in a heartbeat. On Gina's first visit down to Jet and Doug's house, I told her that their house was under construction. There was always something going on at the house. Doug always had a project. Sometimes they took a little longer than most, as many of you know. When we arrived, it was very late. We unpacked the car and went to bed in the spare bedroom. I had shown Gina where the restroom was and didn't give it a second thought. Now keep in mind, it was in the middle of the night, and Gina had still not actually met Doug or Jet. Gina woke me up during the night and said, "There's no door on the restroom, and a man just walked by in his underwear." In the morning, we were all up, and I introduced Gina to Doug, to which he said, "Oh, we already met. She was on the toilet." And then Jet in the background says, "Welcome to the family." As much as this hurts my heart to share this story, I feel it's only appropriate to do so since we're in this company here. I was an exhausted detective working an overtime shift, helping a community that had been ravaged by fire to keep their property safe from vandals and thieves. During the night, I was waved down by a citizen. I mean, he got out there and I rolled down my window thinking, I'm going to help this guy. He leans in the window and he says, could you please do me a favor? Sure, anything. Could you tell the firefighters thank you and that they're the true heroes? I rolled up that damn window and immediately called Doug in the middle of the night, which I'm sure he was sleeping soundly at the fire station, to tell him what had happened. He laughed and he said, the firefighters are always the heroes. I, of course, hung up in disgust. Doug was a man of many talents and trades. He was gifted, knowledgeable, and would do anything he put his mind to. If he was here today, he'd spend hours telling you all about that. Doug started numerous businesses on his own and was successful at every adventure he embarked on. His true passion came later in life when he decided to become a firefighter for Orange County. This picture that's not here, there you go. This picture, this is Doug, right here. I love this picture. It's a firefighter extending his hand. It's always reminded me of Doug. His kindness, his helpfulness, his generosity were abundant. He always extended his hand out to anyone he came into contact with. Doug embraced and welcomed people with open arms, and I'll always be grateful for the man he was. Doug was a gift to his friends and family. He would drop everything at a moment's notice to extend that hand to anyone. No questions asked. If you're sitting in this room today, I guarantee you Doug loved you. It's the man he was. Doug's smile would light up a room. His presence could make anyone feel welcome and safe. He welcomed all newcomers into the family as if they'd always been there. I will always be grateful for him and Jet for welcoming Gina with open arms, no questions asked. Gina and Doug's relationship was a beautiful thing. Doug was an amazing uncle to our daughter Alex, and I'll always be grateful for their time together. What I admired most about Doug was his love for my sister. When he married Jet, he immediately embraced her two daughters and tried to raise them as if they were his own. He immersed them in activities they'd never previously been privy to, and he tried to be the best father he could be. Doug loved his grandson, Michael, with all his being. He was so proud of you, Michael. Please remember that when the days are dark. Doug loved and adored his grandbabies, Maddie, Brooklyn, and Evie. Jet, I know how much Doug loved you. What I want you to know is the rest of us could see it and feel it. From the way he looked at you when you weren't looking, to the many conversations I had with him. You two had one of the greatest loves built on respect, love, laughter, and most importantly, telling you that you were always right. And his famous words to you, yes, dear. I was always grateful for the abundant love and support he provided you. You were his everything, and I hope you always carry that love in your heart. I'd like to share a portion of a poem called In Blackwater Woods by Mary Oliver. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing your own life depends on it, and when the time comes, to let it go. Jet, I generally believe that the final act of love is grief. You love Doug purely and deeply, and you take all the time you need. Your family loves you, and we're all here. Doug, you were the best man, and this family will miss you always. Thank you for making all of our lives better. Thank you.
Now we can do the slideshow.
Didn't know today would be our last, or that I'd have to say goodbye to you so fast. I'm so numb I can't feel anymore. I'm praying you just walk back through that door and tell me that I was only dreaming. You're not really gone as long as I believe. There will be another angel around the throne tonight. Your love lives on inside of me, and I will hold on tight. It's not my place to question, only God knows why. I'm just jealous of the angels around the throne tonight. Always made my troubles feel so small, and you were always there to catch me when I'd fall. In a world where heroes come and go, well, God just took the only one I know. So I'll hold you as close as I can, longing for the day when I see your face again. But until then, God must need another angel around the throne tonight. Your love lives on inside of me, and I will hold on tight. It's not my place to question, only God knows why. I'm just jealous of the angels around the throne tonight, singing hallelujah. Just jealous of the angels around the throne tonight.
Here I am, looking down on you from heaven. It's so peaceful, it's so free, like you pray. It is warm, it's so bright and so beautiful. All my fears and my pain have gone away. 'Cause here in heaven, oh, I miss you so. But I know we'll meet someday. But now please go and spread your wings and seize the day. I'm okay, 'cause I'm dancing in the sky. Each day I'm singing in the angels' choir. I hope that you go never give up. One day we will reunite. The sun shines so bright here in heaven. I'm at peace, I'm happy and I'm free. And someday we will walk these clouds together. But first you must go and see the world for me. 'Cause here in heaven, oh, I miss you so. But I know we'll meet someday. But now please go and spread your wings and seize the day. I'm okay, 'cause I'm dancing in the sky. Each day I'm singing in the angels' choir. I hope that you go and live your life. Never give up. One day we will reunite. We'll reunite. We'll reunite. I'm okay, 'cause I'm dancing in the sky. And each day I'm singing in the angels' choir. And I hope that you go and live your life. Never give up. One day we will reunite. We'll reunite.
Looking back on the memory of the dance we shared beneath the stars above. For a moment, all the world was right. And how could I have known that you'd ever say goodbye? And now I'm glad I didn't know the way it all would end, the way it all would go. Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. Holding you, I held everything. For a moment, wasn't I the king? But if I'd only known how the king would fall, hey, who's to say? You know, I might have changed it all. And now I'm glad I didn't know the way it all would end, the way it all would go. Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. Yes, my life have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance.
My closing remarks will be brief, but first, the practical things. Reception's outside right across the way in the gym. The outdoor area is open, so we'll have some doors you can flow. There'll be an extended slideshow on the screen in there, I believe. Same as this one, okay. I just got to tell you one thing, and it's powerful, okay? Doug and I spent a lot of time together. We both drove the big CAP vans to all the events that were mentioned, did a lot of talking about a lot of things. But every time he'd want to tell me the story, Civil Air Patrol, I told everybody else not to get emotional. He said, Civil Air Patrol saved my life. I got a bad cold too. Civil Air Patrol saved my life. I said, what are you talking about? He said, after I had that heart attack and I was dead, they told my wife I was dead. I had the ring of death. People don't come back from that. It's a miracle. He's a miracle man. But he had to retire. Gee, he said to Jet, I don't know why God brought me back. I thought I did my thing with the fire department. What could he have in mind for me? And he found Civil Air Patrol. So there you go. That's something to think about, isn't it? Don't ever give up. And when you think you hit the wall and there's no hope. I mean, the guy had a meltdown one day when the fire truck went by in the parking lot. He literally shut the truck off and started bawling like a baby, unloading that sadness, that loss, that grief. Losing that job with the fire department, that's how much he loved it. But he found something else, landed on his feet. That's what we got to do. Amen. I'll have the family go out first.